Oh, had to get the chair just right. Oh, Charlie, we've known each other a long time.
Yeah, we have.
A long time. I mean, I don't know how long. I really don't know how long. You know, some people keep up with that good, don't they?
Yeah.
They'll tell you, hey, I've known you for X amount, 20 years and 7 months and 3 days. I can't do that.
I just say I know you a long We've got a long ways behind us, is what it is.
I tell some people, I say, I'm twice the man as I was when I first met you. So I went from 160 to 260. so I'm twice the man.
Yeah.
I tell Janice all the time, I said, you didn't count on being married to such a big man. But I don't know. I think about stuff and life, how life is a journey. And, you know, I think you and I have got a lot of the same philosophies and the same thoughts as we go along. Seem like I don't know. I think that's why you're my friend.
Yeah.
And
through all of it.
So that's what I look at, you know. I had a guy who was my friend, one of my friends, and he's a little rough. He's not like me and you. He's a little rough. And somebody called and said, is he your friend? And I said, yeah, he's my friend. I said, well, do you know that he done such and such? I said, yeah, I do. I said, but if he's my friend, if he drove through town next week with his wife tied to the hood of the car, hitting her with a bamboo stick, he's still my friend.
That's the way I am too.
You know, I don't mean I agree with everything, but we're my friends.
Yeah, I don't agree with everything. I mean, you take me and you, we might disagree on a few things, not many. I don't know of anything right off the bat. But if you set us down every day and do the same thing every day, we'd probably do things different.
I think the biggest thing you and I would agree on is you've done a lot more hard work than I have. Okay, laying under them coal trucks and stuff like you've done, and and things like that. When you think about things, you know, one of the things that you and I talked about, and we talked about this a lot. And I don't have regrets. I don't believe I do anyway. There's probably something if I narrowed it down. But I mean, as far as regrets in my life, but I think, the important part of our life, and when we get into friendship and being good to people, but I think one of the things that maybe both of us have done at some point in our life, I did at some point in my life, I looked at success a little different than I do now. I looked at success as being prosperous in business, and I know that's all good. I don't fight that in any way. But I mean, I leaned a little more toward that. And I wish I would have leaned a little more the other way. Now, it allowed my family to be blessed, but my kids still talk about, Morgan still throws up how she always had to order off the dollar meal, okay? Now, her son, he gets, what is them real good steaks? He gets, when he has to decide if he wants that prime cut or whatever, you know what I mean?
Filet.
Yeah, she said, we always had to order off the dollar menu. She said, Mom made us order. So they're a little bit, but I think that when we think about success, real success to me, friendships, freedom, health. Okay. When I think about being healthy, and I wonder sometimes. Let's talk about this. Maybe if we would have took better care of ourselves.
That's it.
Earlier on. What do you think about that?
That's what I think. If we just took better care of ourselves, I look back over my life, and I'm like you. I mean, I got a few regrets. I do things different in some situations. I know I would, but I've had a good life, and I've done a lot of the things. And I tell people this: I've done things that other people have only dreamed about doing because God's blessed me. I was successful, but I worked hard to be successful, and I think. Hard work, it never did kill nobody, but sometimes, you can work too hard and you just overdo yourself and overdo your body, and then you pay for it in the end. But I've always said this, if you've got your health, then that's what you need. Even when you get old, if you still got your health, you can make more money. But if you lose your health, then that's the key ingredient right there.
I think about that a lot, In the morning when Carter and I go to the Y, I do not enjoy it. I do not enjoy exercise. I don't enjoy walking and the rowing machine. I don't enjoy none of it. And I tell people there, a girl come by, started saying, old girl. She's a lady come by that used to work for me years ago. And she said, I was rowing just to beat 60. And while I'm rowing, my boat has a motor. Why do I need to know how to row? So I'm rowing. Me and Carter's just rowing. I'm rowing a lot better than he is because I'm a lot stronger and muscular than he is. But we're rowing. She said, John, how you doing? I said, terrible. She stopped. She said, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, well, it's all right. She come back around a little bit later. She said, how you doing now? I said, a little better. And she come back around again. She said, how are you now? I said, in 10 seconds, I'll be perfect because I'll be done. so, but I do those things because I feel like at this point, and probably I should have done a little more, but I don't think because I can get around all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can get around okay, but the actual taking care of yourself, and I believe that repetition of doing some exercise and doing some things, and we think hard work is it, but it's not.
No, it's not.
It's not just hard work. You have to, and that you invest in you.
Yeah.
See, but early on we didn't think like that.
Yeah, I invested a lot early on. I really did. I used to run for 30 years. I run 5 miles a day. Almost every day. Some days, I missed here and there, but not very many times. But I missed not very many days. And I always tried to take care of myself that way because I always wanted. When I was 80, I wanted to be able to breathe. But when you get 60, you find out you just don't do things like you did when you're 30. You have to realize that. It's just time catches up with us, and that's just the way our bodies are designed.
But do you think, and I think when we talk about that, and we talk about doing stuff, running 5 miles every day, I don't know if it'd be good for you. Take a look at your knees and what the impact you had upon your body and the things like that. I think trying to look at things a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's great athletes that really ruin themselves.
They do.
So it's but can it become like an addiction?
It is. It is. You feel guilty once you get into doing that every day. You feel guilty if you don't do it because you've got to do it. Even in the snow. I run in the snow. It's crazy. Because after I did it, I felt so good. It's like a high you get. And that's the reason I've looked at these runners that runs like that, and I understand it. Some people don't understand it, but you really get addicted to it. It is an addiction. To that.
I have an addiction, and I'll just be upfront with you, and I know you shouldn't admit things in front of the whole world, especially. But I'm addicted to gravy and biscuits pretty hard. I'm a biscuitaholic. It's a real thing, Charlie. You shouldn't make fun of people. But you're a biscuitaholic or something that's called. I had Carter to Google it for me one time. I said, I think that because it makes me feel better to think it's an addiction and not just a bad habit. Okay? And I talked to a guy today, Ira, who used to be the postmaster over at War. I was talking to him. He goes to the gym, and he's pretty muscular and everything, and healthy guy. And grows a big garden every year. He's telling me all about that garden and stuff. And I planted 2 tomato plants one time, but he grows a big garden. He said we was talking about eating better stuff, and I said, I really like the gravy and biscuits. He said, oh Lord, you can't eat that. He said that carbs, that goes straight to sugar, and it does this and it does that. I said, well, I appreciate you sharing that. Now I know what's happening. But I still get it because it's 2 for $5 at Hardee's. And then when I bring home my gravy container, the little black container to get the gravy in, I got a big black German Shepherd, and she loves to lick it. And I have... There'll be them gravy containers all over the yard, okay? They'll be all over because she licks them, and then she'll carry them over somewhere. And I'll come in sometimes, and they look like little flowers in the yard. About that time, my neighbor comes. Sarge is what I call him. We call him the captain of the neighborhood. He'll come and knock on my door. You need to start picking up these gravy containers. I said, that's your dog. Why don't you pick them up? And Janice come in the other day, and she picked all of them up out in the yard because I used to have 5 or 6 a week, out in the yard. She said, I picked up the gravy containers. I said, well, honey, when we got married, he said, these 2 are one. So it's sort of like I picked them up, too. So you can let old Sarge know that I picked up the gravy containers. You pick them up after him, didn't you? But I think when you talk about health and sort of taking care of it, a lot of times you'll think, especially, let's talk about people old. We're senior citizens. I mean, I believe we're going to class ourselves. We're not the Gen X or Gen Qs or whatever that is. I don't know nothing about all that. I can't keep that straight. I just now got my pronouns figured out. Macho man. Yeah, that's what I go with my pronouns. Somebody asked me what it was. I wrote it in the other day. Macho man. Pronoun. But you know, I think what you do, you get to a point in your life where you can start taking care of yourself a little better. Yeah. Where you're not having to be someplace and do something every day, 10, 12 hours a day. And you need to know you can do that, and you need to do that. Yeah. And especially, I've been off at this time of this recording. It may be different later on, but I've been off 2 medications I've been on 20 years. Yeah. And I'm doing a little better. Yeah. And I need to get off of them because I've been on them too long. Yeah. It's a little damaging to different parts of my liver and stuff. But I'm trying to. So I'm trying to replace that with harder exercise and do some things to try to take care of it.
I do believe that you can replace those things by doing better exercise and taking care of yourself better. I really believe that because I didn't have no high blood pressure and stuff till I had to quit running. But the reason I had to quit running is like we went back a while ago, I wore my knees out. Had to have my knees replaced. Doctor told me, said you should have rode a bicycle. I said you should have told me 30 years ago. Yeah, and I rode a bicycle.
Yeah. I've always thought that hard running like that is be hard on your knees and stuff like that. We walk in the mornings. I ran a half a lap a while back because I was trying to get away from Carter to hide. He had went to the bathroom and I said, I'm gonna sneak around here and hide in the corner here in the Y. When he comes by, I hit him. And he seen me. He said he seen my belly sticking out.
Seen your belly sticking out.
But running just seemed like it would be hard on your legs.
It is hard. It's tough on it.
But walking, I try to. We walk and do cardio, do stuff like that, and try to. And swimming, I believe, is the best thing you can do.
Swimming's good for you too. Yeah.
Swimming. The other day, you ever watch that show Land Man?
No, I've never watched it.
It's pretty cool. Anyway, this guy has his dad, his old dad, and the old dad's all crippled up and everything. He's one of them guys, actors that's got the big mustache that comes down over his mouth, gray hair. But anyway, his dad is all arthritis and stuff. So he went to a place and hired this pretty girl to be his dad's physical therapist. Yeah. And she'd never been a physical therapist. But he said, she said, well, why do you want to hire me? He said, because my father can't say no to a pretty woman. So I want to hire you. So she come to the door and she introduced herself, went into his dad and introduced him and said they had a swimming pool. And she said, I've been looking on this, we're going to do the water therapy today. And she went out there and held him in her arms in that swimming pool, held him right there, and he floated just as nice. And I told Janice, I said, you knew my arthritis is bothering me. I said, if you ever get a chance to maybe hire me a physical therapist. And she didn't say anything. She just said, walked out the room.
She didn't like that idea, did she?
It's real thoughtful. But I think sometimes when we talk, let's talk about making money.
Yeah.
Okay? We can make money, okay? But you trade your money for time. I mean, your time for money and your money for stuff, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So there's a point in life, I think, that we have to come to realization that we need to watch the stuff we trade our time for. We don't know. We think we're just trading money for the stuff, but it's really a section of our life
that we put our time in to do it.
What do you think?
That's what when you look back at that, that's exactly what you're doing. You're trading the time. Your time. I mean, here on this earth, you just got so many days, and we're just going to be here so long. And I look at every day. When I have to heat my coffee up because I hate cold coffee, but I watch that microwave. I put it on like sometimes I put it like on 2 minutes, and I watch that microwave countdown. I said, that's 2 more minutes of my life just went down me waiting on my coffee or whatever, So I'm trading my time for that, and that's the way I look at it too. And that's what you got to look at. That time. Time is the most precious thing you got. Time is.
Okay.
Because you trade it for so many things.
All right. Okay. Here's the deal. I've got an app on my telephone.
Yeah.
Called Countdown.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm figuring. Okay. I'm figuring that if I make it to 80.
Yeah.
Okay. in my upper 60s now. Okay, if I make it to 80, I've really done well.
Yeah.
Okay, due to the life I've lived and just
Things.
Okay, all right. Here's what I have left right now. I've got 13 years, 3 months, 8 days, 8 hours, 34 minutes, and 15 seconds.
If you make it to 80.
A countdown.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a countdown on here. Now I've got one for Andrew, my son-in-law, who's a lot younger than me. He has got 19,776 days.
Yeah.
Okay, because I figure he's younger.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to give him this app when I die. And Morgan, I've got her on there. She ain't got the 14,594, but it counts down constantly and tells me, because the Bible said, "Teach me, Lord, to number my days."
Yeah, it does.
Okay, and the biggest problem people think is they got forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't look at our time. We don't look at it as that. You know, we don't look at the future so much as we look at the present. The present, we're wrapped up in the present, and we forget about the future. You know, and we spend all of our time right in the present. You know, it's kind of like the vice president when she got talking about the times and the period of times. And, you know, but anyway, when we get down and look into the future, you know, that's what we're looking out for. It's like we got plans for next year and next year. But you know, that's just our time that we got. We're counting on that. But then as we use it up, then we see sometimes we don't make it to the places that we planned we was going to do. We don't get to do the things that we planned we do, so we just try to do something different. We put something else in that place. You know,
I believe that life is about, you got to have markers in life. Okay,
Yeah.
and I've shared this. I know I've shared it over and over again, but I think it's important. One of the reasons that we, in my family, we try to do something every July the 4th together.
yeah.
It cost a lot of money. My wife, when she started to show me how much money it cost, I started making sure everybody got the cheap hot dogs, and the cheap hamburger. 'Cause I used to try to buy the good stuff. She said, "Do you know how much money you were spending?" I said, "Don't have any idea. How would I know how much money I'm spending? I don't know if I'm rich or poor." And but you know, but we try to do that as a marker.
Yeah.
I know you were just at the house for Christmas.
Yeah, I said that.
Okay, I mean, I want you to come on Christmas. And I got our family. We come together. We push everybody to come together.
Yeah.
That's a marker.
Yeah.
Because you'll look and life will just sort of blend by you.
Yeah.
If you don't have those stopping points
Yeah.
that you spend and you do, and I think that's real important.
Yeah.
That we have those times. And I always tell my kids, if you don't plan your life, it'll plan you.
Yeah.
And you need to have a 1 year, a 2 year, a 5 year plan, and you can change it all you want to change it.
Yeah.
But just have a plan that you can say, I see this, I want to do this. We do Janice and I, we order off the Amazon one of those great big calendars that's got 1 year on it. Mm-hmm. And I take a staple gun.
Yeah.
No fan. I staple it to the wall in my office. And we put one of them dry erase markers on it. And we write stuff on there. Where we're going, what we want to do, what we're going. You know, I got to pick up an aunt next month on 15th at the airport. She said, let me know. I said, I got to check the calendar, make sure I don't have anything on it. You know what I mean? You know, so I come in, checked it, and you got to look at it. But you have to sort of make some plans along, like you're talking, because if you don't, you won't get to do the stuff that
You won't find the time to do it if you don't plan for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, you know, I believe in spending time with your family like that too, you know. Before Charlie got married and everything, my son, before he got married and everything, you know, we planned things together. We went places together. I didn't send him with somebody else. I took him with me. So, you know, I think that's very important that you take your family with you, just like the Christmas deal. You got your family there with you, just like the 4th of July. You plan for that and you got your family with you. And that's just moments that you never forget. I mean, they're always there. They're always embedded in your mind. And that's just what we got to take time for. Just like we said, that time is the most precious thing you got. And to spend it with the people you love.
Exactly.
That's the deal right there.
That's exactly. And you know, you can get so wrapped up. I hear this a lot, and let's talk about this. I think that sometimes we get so far, not just in debt, but we buy things and we get so far in that you got to spend so much of your time buying something that's going to somebody else is going to live in. Before you know, when you die, it'll all just go. One time I taught on this. There was a church. There was a big house beside the church down here on Carline where I pastored, and that big old 2-story house. Well, it had run down, and the city come in and tore it down under that section and cleaned it all out, and just made an empty lot there. And I taught on this, and the Lord dealt with me about this. Somebody had gave hours and hours of their life to buy that house.
Yes, they had.
To build it, to buy it, to borrow the money or however to pay for it and do all the furniture that was in it at that time. And now it's gone.
Yeah.
Okay? And so that time, and I think that, I don't know, man, I'm so careful with my time that I'm very careful with it because I want to spend it with people that I like.
Yeah.
Okay? That I want to be around.
Yeah.
And the ding-dongs, I just try to separate myself from them. And it's all right, Jesus loves them, but I don't have to be around them.
That's right.
That's what I tell him all the time. I said, them is your children, not my children. Okay? So, Lord, if you want to do something, you do it. But I look at it like that because, like you're saying, that time is so important.
Yes, it is.
And spend it right.
What makes me get aggravated sometimes at myself is I waste some of my time. I've wasted it. Just like you'll be somewhere and you look around, you've been 3 hours, and you should have only been there a half hour. And you've wasted 2.5 hours of your life doing nothing. And I hate that. I hate to not be able to do nothing. To look back and see that I've not done anything that day and not accomplished anything.
Well, then how in the world could you sit in a tree stand all day long waiting on the deer to stagger by?
Well, I watch them. I watch other things other than deer. I watch the redbirds. I watch the squirrels, and I learn from that creation. I learn. One time, and I know you never saw this, I saw 13 redbirds in one little bush. And I tried to take a picture of it, but I didn't get a good picture of it. But I'd never seen that many redbirds in one bush, And that was worth some of my time right there, being able to do that, because very few people could look back and tell me that they'd seen 13 redbirds in one bush. So I watch the creation when I'm out there, but I do spend a lot of time. But
if you ever see me and I'm in the woods like that, you know what I mean? And I'm in a tree stand, I want you to shoot me out of it. Just shoot me and just shoot me. Shoot me and say, John is in misery. I'm just going to put him out of it.
Well, it takes a lot of patience, so you got to work. It takes patience, I promise you. I hunted one deer a couple of years ago. I hunted that deer 41 days before I ever saw him. But he's in my building.
I'm fascinated. I think that part of determination that's inside of some people, like inside of you.
Yeah.
And in there, and I think that's really fascinating to me, and it's a whole part of your character and your character makeup and your things like that you can do that.
Yeah. You just have to have it works patience, and the Bible says we got to have patience, and that really does try you patience. And you spend I wasted a lot of my time. But I didn't kind of count that as wasting. I counted that kind of as relaxing, and something I'd like to do and something I want to do. But once I did that, then it was over to the next year. I had other things that I planned to go on to do. But I never planned on it taking 41 days to get that deer. Most time about 12 to 15.
Well, I guess all of us, I find myself at times in my life doing things that look wasteful, to other people. It's like my daddy says, like the man that kissed a cow to each his own. So, there's things that I do, we all do in our life that other people look at and think, what in the world are they doing? We spend a lot of time in our life at horse shows watching horses ride around in a circle. Okay, instead of on a trail ride or back in the mountain, but just going around competition around a circle, which looks like to a lot of people, like, what are they doing? They're not going anywhere, just around in a circle. So, there's all things that we do in our life. But when you think about your life, what is something, if you look back on your life, something that makes you smile?
The thing that really makes me smile, John, is that when I was 23 years old, I built a church. And that's the thing that really makes me smile. I look back over that, and look every time I go by it, and it's still there, and it's grown, and it's bigger, and it's still going. And it's been going about 50 years now. So that's what makes me smile. That right there. And then I had something else, that made me smile. Sometimes we get down and we think that we've not done any good, and we've not accomplished the things that we need to accomplish. Sometimes I get in that situation. I haven't accomplished exactly all the things I wanted to. But I had a lady that had got saved under my ministry years ago, and she come to me one night and she told me, She said, you preached a message one time that I always tried to live my life by. That's what I did. I applied my life to it. And she told me the title of the message. And then about 6 months later, that lady passed away. And, you know, and stuff like that. If you can get a little, if somebody can tell you a few things that you've done for them, that, you know, that helps you along. That makes a difference in your life. Makes a difference.
It'll make you smile.
Yeah.
Think about those things and think about the people that you meet along the way.
Yeah, meet all those interesting people. You know, and some people, you know, you can look back and they can tell you, they'll come to you just like people that comes to me over the, you know, the TV shows where we've done and all this. Me and Brother Eddie did, and then I've done it myself. You know, they look back and say, you know, they still, they enjoyed it and stuff. Things like that. You feel like you've accomplished something when you do that. You haven't wasted your time. You haven't wasted it.
You know, I think the little things that we take for granted sometimes, that we think maybe we wasted our time when I think we did. I picked up a guy, he wasn't hitchhiking, but he's walking through town yesterday, Peter Handy. I picked him up. I said, hey, I pulled up my window. I said, you need a ride? He said, yeah. And he got in. He said, I've been watching you work on those ATVs and watching you cook and watching him. And he started telling me, he said, I watch this all the time. He's telling me, he said, talk about Dad, how much he loved Dad.
Yeah.
And, you know, you think about stuff. And I thought, Lord, I preached all over the world. And people are going to remember me for my cornbread salad. Okay? They're going to remember me for my cooking. And I told Janice, any place I go, somebody says, I watch that cooking program. And I'm thinking, I preach every day. Okay? Well, they're going to travel the world over, and they're going to say, man, I liked it when you made that beef stew. And when I stand there over top of my coffin, they'll say, hallelujah, he made some good beef stew. But it's funny. But, I mean, you know, stuff touches people, and you try your best to be good.
It's just like you in your life. You look back, and some people come up and say, well, do you remember this? I said, no, I don't remember that. There's different things that sticks out in people's minds that we don't see, and then we see things in our life that they don't see. It sticks out for us, you know, that stands out above everything else. There's things that I've been to, and the people's come to me and said, did you see that? No, I didn't see that. It's just like you put me out here, and you put a big field in front of me, and you'll tell me, well, what did you see, Charlie? What did you see out there? And then you ask you the same question. We'll both say different things because we're both looking at the field. We're looking at the same field, but we see different things that attracts us and attracts our attention.
I believe the same thing happens when we're looking for a woman to marry.
Yeah.
You know, two guys can be looking the same woman.
Yeah, that's true.
One guy saying, ooh, that sounds hateful and mean. And then there's another guy standing there saying, I love her. You know, ain't that something?
They like to be talked to that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I think, you know, I shared the other night, and Kathy Van Dyke was telling me about this, how she heard me say it, and I wasn't paying that much attention when I said it. But I think so many people in their life, they're never thinking about winning, and they never feel like they can succeed at things that they're doing. And success, I'm not talking literally always about money and things like that, but I'm talking about having success. And to prepare to succeed and think there's no way you can fail is a powerful gift.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, I've seen people that were trying to do something that I thought there's no possible way they can do it. But they won't give up and they won't quit.
They just keep going.
The same things. I think what we need to do in our life, and I know many times you've had to lean on these things in business and life.
Yep.
That you have to prepare to succeed, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to make preparations to succeed. And you have to really watch out ahead, you know, and make sure that you have to place things in order, you know, so they come in order sometimes. And that's how you be successful and stuff, is just placing things out there, making milestones, you know, kind of like the time we're talking about. It takes that time. We use that time up.
Yeah. You know, I've tried to always live with one foot in the present and one foot in the future, because what happens is where I didn't get a good education. It's my fault. But I mean, so I had to rely upon instinct and aspiration and things like that in my life. I had to look for that.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to look to the future and prepare up here for the future. that way I would know what it was when I got there.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have some kind of grasp of the future, when you get there, you'll be lost.
Yeah.
You won't know where you are.
No, you won't.
But if you say, this is what I see in my future, I see happiness here, or I see this with my family there, or I see my house getting paid off, or I see not having a car payment, or I see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that way, when you get there, you say, well, I have arrived.
You got there.
Then I'm still going to plan on the next part of the future. You know, when we do this calendar, Janice and I do, we go on there and mark when this is and when that is, and we got to go here. And last year we had a revelation, okay, not like a real biblical revelation.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't fasting or praying or anything. I just had a revelation. We were walking around at the West Virginia State Fair. And, you know, we go to the Florida State Fair, the West Virginia State Fair. We go to all kinds of other county fairs. And I said, you know, honey, I don't think I like fairs. And she said, I'm so glad you said that. I don't think I like them either. And I said, let's mark them off our schedule. No more fairs.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Praise the Lord, she said, because she don't praise the Lord real often. She said, praise the Lord. And I said, let's mark these fairs and don't go anymore. Okay, so now on our calendar, we don't got no fairs, nothing like that. We said, no, we're going to do some other stuff.
Well, the thing about it is you've seen that and you've done it. So why waste your time on going back and looking at the same stuff? A lot of people, you know, they come to me and say, you like to do this, you like to do that. Well, I don't like to do the same thing. If I do it once, then that's it for me. If I go see a waterfall somewhere, well, I don't go back to that same waterfall. I mean, you know, because I want to see a different waterfall. I mean,
have you ever been to Niagara Falls?
No, I've never been.
I'm going to tell you, Charlie.
I'd love to go.
It is tremendous.
Yeah.
On the American side, you have to have your passport to go on the Canadian side, but on the American side, you see the falls. You go right next to the falls.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. It tells you how many millions of gallons of water are going over every minute in these different falls, and you see it. Now, the American side is sort of grungy. It's not really not that pretty, and we had trouble finding places to eat that we liked. But the falls part, the Niagara Falls State Park, is really something to go to.
I would like to do that.
You need to do that.
Yeah.
Let me know on some weekend. We'll just take off.
Just take off and go.
I don't care.
Yeah.
It ain't like we got a job. We'll just take off up there. We'll wait till we get our check.
Yeah.
We can't
have gas money.
We can't go till after the middle of the month.
That's right.
The other day I was getting ready to do something, and Janice said, hold on a second, don't use that card. I said, I knew I didn't have any money. And then I said, the 16th, honey, everything comes back in. We're rolling again. So we got up to the 16th, and she said, we can go now.
Ready to go.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I don't know. I think enjoy people, enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Be good to a few people and get out of the way. The ones you can't.
Some people you just better off to just let them go.
Yeah.
You can't take them with you.
Yeah.
Because they'll cause you to sink. If you keep them, the only thing they do is hinder you. You know, sometimes you just cut them loose and say, they'll just like a while ago, well, they'll be my friends, and if they got stuck up, I'd pull them out. But I let them go, you know. I've learned to do that. I had to learn to do that, though, because I've been stuck with them a few times, and you have too. We've learned that through the generation.
Yeah. You know, I try to be careful and just be careful. The first thing, be careful of the people I'm around.
Yeah.
Because you can be around ding-dongs, and before you know it, you're a ding-dong.
You'll be a ding-dong.
You're just in, and I just try my best to make sure that I'm real careful with those people that I'm around and say, Lord, help me and guide me and get them people out of my life, even if I don't want them out. Mm-hmm. And I know, like you, I've had people that have, God has moved out of my life that I really didn't want him to.
Yeah, I have too.
But he moved them out of my life, and they're no longer there because they weren't a help to me, and they were hurting me.
Yeah.
And they were leading me out of the way he had for me to go.
Yeah. Yeah, they can change your course if you listen to them, and if you fool with them. What it is, you'll spend your time fooling with them. You're wasting your time. It's, a lot of people says, well, you can't waste your time on people like that. Yes, you can. You can waste your time on them. I mean, I don't give up on them ever getting saved or, you know, coming to Christ or something like that. I don't give up on them in that sense, but I give up with them, you know, with them interfering in my life is what I do. I give up on them that way and let them go, because you can't take them with you. They're a setback to you, and they destroy your, some people can just talk to you. and it tells you, it brings you down. And some people can talk to you and brings you up. Me and you, we always laugh and talk every time we see each other, and that's the difference. But I've seen some people come to me and they'll start a conversation. It's always down. It's doom and gloom and all that stuff.
Yeah. I find that too. I think, and I've had people try to argue with me a little bit on that respect to what we're talking about, but I refer them back to Jesus in the young rich ruler.
Yep.
Jesus told him what he had to do, and told him, ever laid it out, here's the plan, baby.
Yep.
This is what you need to do. And he dropped his head and walked off, the young rich ruler did. Jesus never mentioned him. He never told the disciples, please go back and try to talk him into it.
No.
Try to do this and try to do that. He never said nothing else about it. And I think that, Charlie, in our life, them are God's people.
Yeah, they
okay?
are.
Now, I know, and we can all pick a scripture where we think we should die for the gospel, but I don't believe he wants me to hang on the cross for the gospel.
No,
Jesus
he's done
there.
that.
So, I mean, when I look at life and I look at people, if people want to hear when I'm talking about the Lord, I don't mind talking to them. I love to.
Yeah,
but if you look at me and say, I don't believe in that, well, okay, baby.
I just
have
let you
at
believe.
it. I mean, and then when I walk off, I'll whisper to somebody, hell will be ready for that one.
Yeah.
Because that's the life you're choosing. And for example, too, let's talk about this. Recently, I was a fellow that I know got sick and really didn't have anybody with him. Mm-hmm. Nobody was there for him. Okay? Just really virtually nobody. And some of his family was standing there with me. And I seen him in the emergency room, and I seen him there with his mask on. He wasn't conscious, wasn't dead, but he wasn't conscious and things. And I said, he's not a nice person. I told his family. And they said, well, he really don't have anybody. I said, because the life he's lived, he has no one. He has chose to live that life of solitude and inconsiderate and caring about nobody but himself. And it's okay because it's America.
That's okay.
And Jesus loves you.
Yeah.
Okay? But when you choose that life of solitude and not being there for other people and investing in other people, and you look up one day and find yourself all alone.
Yep.
And, I've seen people that seen people in like a retirement home, and they said, Lord, over there's old Billy. Nobody ever visits
That's
him.
right.
His family don't never come around.
Wonder why?
Well, maybe Billy was a donkey all of his life, okay? And maybe Billy just was rude and arrogant. Now it doesn't mean everybody that people don't visit, but still I found is that there's people, my mom and I talk 4 or 5 times every day.
Yeah.
Okay, we call and talk. We talk and stuff. So I think about things in people's lives. If people are there for you and that you feel like they love you, you want to be there for them.
Oh, yeah.
And my Uncle Kenny's going through some things right now, some surgery and things. And, man, his kids are right there for him.
Yeah.
Checking on him, taking care of him, watching over him, because he loved them, they love him, and it's there. But if you live your life in a solitude, selfish way, and I'm not saying it's America.
It's America, that's right.
But if you're going to live your life like that, and you look up, it's a lot to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what happens to a lot of people, I think, where they live their life like that and they don't have anything to do with anybody and they don't care about nobody but themselves. Then how can you expect anybody to care about you? I mean, you can't expect somebody to come in because nobody knows the real you, because you've not allowed yourself to become a part of anything or become a part of somebody else's life. We become parts of people's life, I mean, that's what it comes down to, being parts, and part here and a part there. But, then we pick up and we go on.
I don't know. I think about, I just think about that, and I try to make sure that in my life, the time I've got, and I gave Carter and Connie some papers in there today that had some information, some passcodes and some stuff, some paperwork. And I told them, I said, now, if I fall dead next week, I said, you all need this information. I said, so you can get into the equipment and make changes and do stuff. And I said, you need this. Carter said, it sounds like you got a lot planned out there. You've been thinking about this. I said, of course. It'd be foolish not to. I'm 66 years old, okay? I mean, I've got buddies that fell dead at 50. So, I mean, I'm thinking about that stuff, and I don't want to turn around and have all this trouble and stuff to take care of. And, and I try to think about it up in advance.
That's what I do. I've tried to think about my stuff too like that in advance, because I don't want Charlie to have to come in and have to, be faced with a lot of stuff. I want him to just be a smooth transition, nothing for him to worry about. Once I'm gone, he don't have to worry about all this stuff and fix it that way.
Well, if you die before me,
Yeah, okay.
Okay? While the funeral's going on. Okay, don't give me no part in the funeral.
I already did.
Because I'm gonna go ransack your stuff. Okay?
Hey, I don't care if you take it off. It won't bother me a bit.
You wouldn't mind signing this paper, would you?
Yeah, I'll sign it. They don't care.
Charlie's last will and testament. He left me all his pants, but they were too short.
They too short. We can use them for short pants.
Oh, Lord.
That's when it's pretty bad when you buy a pair of pants and you buy the shortest you can buy and still have to have 4 inches cut off.
Oh, gee. I don't know. I think about life, Charlie, and a lot of stuff right now. I mean, I just enjoy my life, enjoy my time with Janice and I want to make sure I do it now.
Yeah.
And I don't take my health for granted. You know, I don't at all take it for granted.
You know, I'm like you. I think about 80. If you can make it to 80, I plan on being able to do things. I've got health problems, but you know, it's nothing that would stop me from doing what I want to do right now.
Right.
I still can go. I'm still very fortunate. I can still climb hills after all that I've been through, and I can still do those things. And I look at it. I still got a few things that I've got that I want to do, and I'm going to be able to do them.
What do you want to do, Charlie? If we talk about things you want to do, tell me something you want to do.
Well, I've not got to go to Colorado in the last few years because my friend out there, he passed away, you know, and I didn't, the guy that I hunted with for like 40 years, he passed away, and I want to be able to go back. I don't have anybody to go with me yet, but I'll find somebody, and I want to do that. I want to be able to go back to that again, and then I want to spend more time. I'd like to be able to go to Florida and spend more time there, you know, with my son, see him more, you know, and see my grandkids. I'd like to see them more because, you know, I realize that I'm running out of this precious time. I'm running out of it. And I've only got that many more years, like you say, 80. You know, I figure around 80, you know, I can still do all these things I want to do till then. But, you know, but to be my age, you know, I think God has really blessed me, and I'm able to do the things that I do. I mean, I do stuff that I see people 45, 40, they can't do it. And, you know, that amazes me that God still allows me to do it. Although I'm not near what I was 10 years ago, I can still do those things.
Yeah. Well, two things. You know, when I think, and again, what I figure about 80 is anything after that's like a free day.
It is.
Okay, I mean, that's a buy me day. It's a buy me time because my mom is over 80 and she goes just like, she takes less medication than I do, goes on just like it's a whoop-de-doo and has to hunt for something. She says, oh, I don't have anything to worry about. Let me think real hard. You know, she'll have to think of something to worry about. You know, number two, I don't mind going to Colorado with you if you're not going to stay so long. Okay? I mean, if you say, hey, you know, I'm just going to say, I could probably do a week. They got internet?
Yeah.
Where I could...
About a week, we'll ride the horses and all that.
Yeah, I don't mind going a week.
Yeah.
I mean, will we fly or drive?
We'll drive probably.
Ooh, we
can fly.
Okay. Flying ain't bad.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if we flew. If we want to plan us a trip to Colorado, we need to be a little warmer, don't we?
Yeah, well, I usually go during hunting season. That's my plan.
I don't want to go when it's so cold.
It is cold.
Well, I don't got any clothes for that.
It's not the same type cold out there as it is here. It can be 15 degrees out there, and it's not as bad as it is 45 here.
Yeah, well, I trust you, but I don't believe you. I don't want to go out there. But I mean, I don't mind going to Colorado with you if you want to plan us a trip.
Yeah.
Let's just plan a trip.
We will.
Okay. What month do we need to go in?
Well, if you want to go for it to be pretty, we'd have to go about probably June or something like that.
June
or July. Yeah.
June, Colorado.
Yeah.
With Charlie.
Yeah.
All right. Let's plan us a trip a week.
Yeah.
You want to fly or drive?
Well, we fly, we drive, have to buy us a car, rent us a car and stuff.
Okay, we could.
Or we.
Are you going to pay for the rental car?
Yeah, I guess I have to.
Okay, I mean, you know, I just want to make sure we got this trip. I mean, I'll buy my own groceries, but I ain't going in half. I'll buy my own airplane ticket, and I'll buy my own groceries. But I ain't going in on the rent-a-car. I don't want to get out there and you say, well, you need to feed your horse. If you're going to ride. You need to buy your own feed.
We have to find one to rent first.
How long it take to drive? It's a pretty good drive.
It takes me about 24 hours.
Whew.
I've drove it straight through all the time.
Yeah, see.
But, you know, it's easier to split it up.
Yeah, that's 6 diet
Go to that
pills.
salon of Kansas.
2 of them 5-hour drinks and the 6 diet pills. Get me 24 hours. By the time I get there, I wouldn't be worth nothing. I'd be hallucinating. By the time I got 24 hours in the driving. I've got to go 14 hours to Florida to pick up some stuff now, and I'm trying to figure out how to break it up. I can drive it. Okay, but I've got to go down there and pick up some things that Jimmy Dickens gave me. But it's a 14 hours down near Tampa.
Yeah.
And so I've got to drive it. But I've got a trip in Alabama, and I thought, well, I could split it up, go to Alabama, and then go on down. Yeah, go on down and do that. But I mean, yeah, I'll go to Colorado.
Yeah, I'd like to go.
Praise the Lord, and we'll go. I'll tell you what, we'll go. Now, Janice can have a hard time me being gone that long. I know when I come back, this is what I'm going to see. Okay, when I come back home, every light in the house will be on, and every cabinet door will be open. Okay, and the last person she called will still be on the phone. I told my kids all the time. I said, "No, when I die, if I die before your mama does, I said you need to come over every day and shut all the cabinet doors and the doors." And I said, "Shut all them and shut the refrigerator because it's going to be beeping, beep beep. It's going to be open, and you'll need to do all those things."
Yeah.
And whoever she called last, 'cause when she's done talking, Janice be, "Oh yeah, okay," and she just lays the phone down. Okay, and I'll be saying, "Honey." She don't watch it. She won't know what I said.
You better not anyway.
Oh Lord! Well, I know we've shared this before, but if you could, what could you tell your younger self again? If we shared this before, and I know I gave you some time to think about it. If you could look back on young Charlie, what would you tell him?
On what? No.
About your life. What would you tell him? What kind of advice would you give Charlie? You could look back on young Charlie Absher, and you could meet with him. What was you? Well, if you had to leave him a letter and say, this is, to young Charlie Absher, what would you tell him to do?
I would tell him, to be more cautious about, in his business dealings and stuff, and to watch it, because sometimes you can want too much. And you get too stretched out, and you get too far out, and it puts you and your family. It puts you and your family in a strain. It really does. It hurts your relationship in your family with your wife. I mean, financial stress is one of the worst things that can happen to you. Being financially stressed and stressed out and stressed as far as you can go. And I've been there, And that's what I would tell them. That's what I would tell me. I would make sure that I didn't do that. Because that makes so many hardships, and it causes you many sleepless nights, and you wake up with a cold sweat wondering how you're going to do this, but it all works out. It all works out one way or the other. But that's what I would tell myself. I would tell myself to be more careful in my transactions and go and pay as I go. Pay as I go. Get something. If I had to have a payment, make sure that I could make that payment. Don't count on somebody overtime. Don't count on overtime making you payment, because the overtime might get cut out. And that's what happens to people. They get stretched too far like that. And that's what I would tell me.
Well, I think you've touched on something. We hit this a little bit earlier on. I think what happens, you can become overextended in your life financially, and it feeds everything else, and it destroys everything else, your relationships with your children, it robs you of your time. It does all this because we want things that are outside of, and I guess at this point in my life, I'm so careful. I'm probably overly careful. But I mean, we want things in our life, and we early on, we think we got to have that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about houses.
Yeah.
Okay? I think it's... And people say, well, yeah, but they got a lot of money and they got this and they got that. I know people that are millionaires that live in 1,000 square foot houses.
That's right.
And I think, how smart are they?
Yeah.
Okay? Because who's going to take care of all that great big old house and 5 bedrooms and all this? That's a lot to do for people. And I'm not saying, listen, if you're doing that and somebody's doing it, then that's okay. That's your choice.
Yeah.
But I bet you what, if I put a pencil on it and say, let's just take a look. First thing, how often are you even in those rooms that you have? And where, our little old house, 850 square feet, we wear it out. We wear grooves in the floor. Okay, it just, everybody comes in. But the thing, and I'm not saying that's for everybody.
No, it's not.
But I'm telling you something, man. You can overextend yourself.
Yeah.
And then even if you say, well, you can afford it, I say somebody can afford it.
Yeah.
Well, somebody's got to take care of it.
That's exactly
Then
right.
you start sitting this level of you've got to keep meeting all of your life. And you never get a chance to relax. You never get a chance to back off. You never get a chance to ease up just a little bit. And I know it sounds like I'm talking about being unprosperous.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's prosperous.
That ain't prosperous. And it's really, when you come down to it, it's good to have all those things. Like you said, it's good to have it. And a lot of people count it as prosperity. But sometimes when you get that way, the older you get, you know, I found out that the less that I look at stuff like that. I mean, I drive an old car. I got an old truck, you know. I mean, I could go out and I could get me a better truck. You know, I mean, better looking, probably not no better, but better looking anyway. You know, but I choose to do that because I don't want to get back in that place where I knew I come out of. I don't want to get back in there. And I do everything I mean, people may look at me different and say, oh, he's lost all this, he's lost all that. No, I've gained a little bit more knowledge. I've got a little bit smarter as I went along. That's what I've got.
My dad said a man was like a coon dog. Time was good for anything. He was dead with old age.
That's exactly right.
Okay? And I think what we're talking about now, the actual wisdom, and we look at life and think what's really important.
Yeah.
You know, like Janice, you know, I told you a story about the Spark, and I want a Chevrolet Spark, okay?
Yeah.
But it probably cost me $200 a month, you know. But I think, gosh, I told Janice, I said, that's a tank and a half of gas in that camper. We could be to Myrtle Beach and back with that. And I said, I hate to spend $200 a month if I don't have to. And I look at it and I think about it. And yesterday, I pulled in at the YMCA, and I wanted to Spark, and I've shared this 1,000 times. That's I keep thinking somebody's going to say, I'm just going to give it. Spark. They ain't said it yet. But and I want to get a standard shift instead of automatic because the old CVC transmissions don't last.
So,
and I pulled in there at the Y, and the guy pulled up in a red Spark with a 5-speed transmission. And I rolled my window down, and I motioned to him to roll his window down. I said, you, my friend, are a genius. I said, I love your car. He said, yeah, I bought it. It's got 112,000 miles. He told me all about it. And I said, if you ever want to get rid of it, put a note on this window, this blue Ford pickup. But Janice keeps telling me, go get you a Spark.
Go get you a Spark.
But I think about stuff that, you know, used to, we had to have a new car every time they come out.
Sure, me too.
You know what I mean? If it made a new version of a minivan, we got one.
Yeah.
You know, or if it was whatever it was, Lincoln, Cadillac, truck, whatever it was, we always, Janice said that's all, she told me the other day, she said that's the only thing I regretted is how much money we spent on vehicles in our life, you know. And I said, well, it's all gone anyway. That money's all gone. But
vehicles are the worst investment you can make, and I sold them all. I mean, that's what I did for a living. Mm-hmm. But you know, it goes downhill all the time, and you waste your money on stuff that's going downhill, that's depreciating all the time. But we just want a new vehicle. That's just in us. We got to keep up with Mr. Jones and Miss Jones. You know, we can't let them get ahead of us. But you know, like you say, the older we get, we figure out we don't need that. It don't make any difference about the Joneses and how they're living and how they're getting along. You know.
Well, you know, I think many times we try to impress people that really don't even know us or care about us, and we're trying to impress them. You know, and we think it's impressive. What else would and I know I'm going to have people mad at me, probably some of my friends, but what else is a big house good for if you can't bring people around and show it to them?
That's right.
And talk about it. Say, let me show you my house. And now listen, this is the thing I believe about kids too, Charlie, okay? I don't think we ought to make all them extra bedrooms. Them kids are supposed to leave. They're supposed to leave. I don't want them to stay. You know, I wanted my children to get up. They got older. I want them to leave and leave the home. And, you know, it just, I tell a story about Colson. We had Colson a house. And that had him a house and had everything done, set up, and he wouldn't leave. Because Colson is a little bit of a procrastinator. Then a rapture, he'll be the last one off the ground. Because he'll say, hold on, I got to do this. But he was, you know, Colson would say, you know, I can't, it'll be December. And he said, I don't want to move now because it's too close to Christmas. You know, and then we say something about January. And he said, well, you know, it's right after the first of the year. You know, and then we get in February, and he said, well, it's Valentine's Day. You know, I don't want to move around the holiday. You know, and then it would be spring. He said, well, you know, I don't want to move out right now because it's spring. You know, and this. And finally, one day, his mom and I, we got the power turned on, the cable turned on, water, everything set up in his house, and we said, you must leave our house. I said, well, he said, I'm not no trouble. I said, yeah, but I want to come, I want to come in and find the remote control laying where I left it. And you know what I mean? And I'll let you watch TV. I said, no, I don't want to have to ask.
Yeah.
I just want you to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been here long enough. You know what I mean? You've been here long enough with us. And, I mean, we love him and everything.
Oh, sure you
but
do.
But we wanted our own house. You know what I mean? And Janice, she wasn't that way. But I was that way. I said, I finally got him to leave. And then I shared this too when our youngest daughter, Kelsey, finally left home. Okay, and we tricked a guy into marrying her. And but anyway, when she left, we bought her like 2 new vehicles before she ever left because she grunted and wanted something, so we buy her whatever she wanted, But the day when she was leaving, she was going down the road from the house. I could see her little head in the mirror of the vehicle. And Janice, she was sniffing and going along, and I said, this is affecting me and you totally different, honey. I said, that's the last one. They're out of the house. They're all gone. I said, but I mean, because I think kids are supposed to leave.
They are supposed to.
I mean, these people that got them 35-year-old kids living in their basement.
That's exactly right. That's what's wrong.
And they've ruined them,
Yes,
Charlie. They've ruined them.
Because of mom and daddy's going to die one of these days. I mean, they're going to leave you.
Yeah.
And they won't know how to do nothing.
Be dumb as
The worst
boys.
thing you can do is keep them in like that, I think, to your kids, is to keep them under your wing too long and not expose them out to the world, not expose them out to things, around the surroundings. Not so much the world, don't take me wrong on that, but put them in the different surroundings there. I remember, I think I did that a little bit too much for my youngest son, Charlie. I think that I kept him in and kept him close so much that when he went to the Christian school for all his school years. That's where he went. Well, he was going to start college, and when he went to college, man, it was such a big different change for him that he couldn't cope with it. We kept him in and didn't. I took him places. He'd been places, but he didn't know how to cope with those people cussing and the swarming, and he hadn't been exposed to that, and that's the worst thing we can do.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens is we don't let our children struggle like we did.
Yeah.
And therefore they have to have a struggle.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, if you don't have a struggle, I forget Janice was talking about something the other day. Her father died when she was real young, and even before that they weren't wealthy people. She had to buy her first car by herself, and I believe her brother had to co-sign for her finally, but she got to pay for her own car, working at McDonald's and going through things and everything she ever done, she had to pay for and do her own stuff. And I think of how that struggle made her strong and independent. And I think what we do, we can take our kids and we don't let them struggle.
Yeah.
And I've told my kids before, I said, now if you get in a bad shape and you have to come back home, that's okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to pay for your pleasures and the other stuff that you got out there. You can lose that and the bank can have it back. If they was smart enough to loan you the money, they can own it again. I said, and you come back to my house, you have to be in by 9 o'clock at night, cut the grass, and I don't want no loud music. You know what I mean? You go by my rules, and it seems to keep them all where they don't want to come back home.
They don't want to come back
but
home.
I think what happens when we don't let children struggle.
Yeah.
Okay,
They gotta learn.
They don't learn. You don't. That's the same way you're working with exercise and weights and things.
Yeah.
If you don't have the push,
Yeah.
you don't get the growth.
Yeah.
And if you don't have struggles, any kind of struggle in life, if we do everything for them and make it also easy for them, then that's why you see some of the kids that have the least amount of chance seem like they excel.
That's exactly right. That's what happens to them. We don't allow them to get in and have that struggle that they need to make them grow. It's kind of like the pruning things. You got to cut off those dead things, and we got to let them have struggles and let them adapt to it and let them figure out themselves some things. But if they get in too deep, we can always step in and help them out a little bit. But they got to learn on their own. That's the way I look at it.
Now, Barry was on with me the other day, and me and him had a big fight and disagreement over one issue. Okay, I told him, I said, no. His son is a plumber.
Yeah.
Okay, which is a great trade.
Yeah, it is.
I'd rather, if my kid comes and said I want to be a plumber, I'd rather him see him do that than be a brain surgeon.
Oh yeah, I would too.
Okay, I'd rather him be a plumber because I don't need brain surgery, but I need my pipes fixed. But his son was sick one day. And he had a big plumbing job, had to dig this ditch line for this plumbing job. So his son was sitting in the truck, and Charlie said, I'll dig that for you.
Yeah.
And he dug it for him while his son's in there, had the flu or had whatever he had. And I said, you, my friend, are crazy, Charlie. I said, Barry, I told him, Barry, I said, if I had a ditch witch,
Yeah.
I'd have said, I'll run that ditch witch for you. Or I'll run you a little backhoe and dig that ditch out for you. But I wouldn't dig the ditch. If Colson had a bad cold or the flu and he's sitting in that truck, I'd say, baby. So I told him, I said, Barry, you're a way better man than I am as far as all that's concerned. But, we did have a big fight about that. Because I think there's just sometimes in life that I look at, me and Colson, we work together a lot. We're building a chicken coop right now. Okay. And it's really, we got for one rooster. We got one rooster. And this chicken coop is 8 foot long, 4 foot wide. It got doors, and it's a massive undertaking, Charlie. It's going to have wheels on it where we can move it around the yard, let the chicken pick
the grass.
Okay, one rooster is all it is. His name is Doodle. It follows you around everywhere. It's one little rooster, and it cuts a shine in the mornings. That thing yells, you can't talk around it. But that boy, my grandson, carries that rooster around there. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. But I think there's a point with kids that we got to know when we have to let their rear end hit the road and let them feel the asphalt.
Yes, we do.
In order for them to be tough and be strong, because we want them to be better than us, but we take away from them.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we want them to have more than us and stuff, but we give it to them. We make it and we give it to them, so therefore they don't have to work, they don't have to strain, they don't have the struggles, and they don't have to go through what we went through to get to it. Everybody says, well, I want my kids to have more. There's nothing wrong with that. I do too. I want them to have more. I'm giving him a better chance. I'm giving him a better start than what I had.
Right.
But he's got to take that, and he's got to run with it and do that. He's got to do that there. Because, you can't stay with him just like, if he's going to be a plumber, I'm kind of like you. I'd say, well, if you sweat that flu out of you, get that manic and sweat that flu out of you is what I would do.
I've been blessed to have all my kids have worked with me a lot, okay? And Colson worked with me a lot, Kelsey has, but Colson's worked with me ever since he's a little boy. And, put him on a bulldozer when he's big enough to reach the pedals.
Yeah.
I've let him, we would get in 50,000 pounds on a tractor trailer, and I'd say, get on the forklift and go at it. If you ram the truck a little bit, it don't even belong to us.
Yeah.
Do it. And he learned and went on with it. And has worked with me forever, worked with me in the TV station and all this stuff. But a few years ago, I shared with him, I said, now your mom and I are cutting back on our life. Mm-hmm. We're not going to do what we have done, and we're at a different point. We're not retiring, because I don't know what that is, but we're not going to do what we're doing. I said, so you're going to have to go somewhere else and work.
Yeah.
Which he'd worked for me forever, which had handicapped him. So, I probably should have let him go on and work somewhere else, but I didn't. I needed him, and I loved working with him. It was such a blessing. And so I said, dude, got to go. So he did. He could drive anything, but didn't have no CDL, but he went to the college and got his CDL. Didn't cost him anything, and then went straight to work for Pepsi. And he has just excelled working there. I tell him all the time he's making more money than he's worth. And I said, you're making way more than I ever made. I said, you're doing good. And he's very thrifty with his stuff, and works that overtime and goes in there, leaves out 2 o'clock in the morning, comes back 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, and goes and works. And that I like. Now he's good to his family and all that stuff, but that part of him. I've been blessed that all my daughters married working men. They were not interested in the guy with the old spice on that come along with a big grin on his face. I remember Kelsey one time as an old boy, she was sort of seeing along, and all of a sudden she found out that the job he was at, he had somebody else to clock him in. And because he wasn't there. And it wasn't long after that he was out.
That's it for him.
Okay, she just never did. And Morgan, same way. Herman's a worker. They want to be around workers.
That's the way Charlie was. I always, just like on the car lot, I always let him do stuff, and I'd let him, just whatever he wanted to try, I'd let him do it, And he'd get up and he'd say, well, I can't do this. I said, no. I said, you can do it, because I'm going to show you how to do it. And once I show you, you'll know how to do it. And after that, he's okay. He'll do it. And they went right along.
Right. When you think about things in your life, when you think about things that have really influenced you, that have caused you and sort of shaped you and molded you, and I know that's a big thing, but what are some things you think about in your life that have shaped and molded your life and to the point that you're at now?
I think that a lot of things that has molded me into the person that I am is the people that I've met. You know, I've met different people in my life. Now, people like you know, you've had a big influence on my life because I listen to what you tell me, and that helps mold you. It's having good conversation with people, not somebody that you just don't have any confidence in. Take something that they tell you, and your dad, in the last few years, your dad, Brother Eddie, he had a big influence on me. He taught me a lot more. I watched, and he molded me. And I still catch myself. I don't catch myself. I still see myself doing the same things that he told me, you know. And the people that you come in contact with down through your life, you know, is what really molds you, and it makes you. And I think that really helps you do better. It's the people, the quality of people that you put in your life. And allow them to stay there, like you say, like we said a while ago.
You know, I wonder sometimes when people surround themselves with goofy people, that they feel like it's sort of like if a woman begins to look for a husband, okay, and she looks for somebody that's not of stature, but she looks for a pillhead that don't keep a job because he's easier to keep. Okay? And sometimes when a man begins to look for a woman, if he looks for a woman with high standards, then he has to keep high standards. And I think the same thing goes with the people we surround ourselves with. You know, I've got people that I meet and talk to. I interviewed John Glavers one time. And he is a hoot. Okay, that guy there is just, he makes me feel like a sinner when it comes to finances and organization and stuff. He's just good. Okay, I mean, because he's done miracles in business, you know. I mean, you ought to hear his testimony and the interview. It's really good. But I think about those things, and I got around and we talk, and we always talk a lot. And I told him, I said, John, I like you, and we're friends, but we are really different. I said, because when I would get a little money in my pocket, I'd take off and go on vacation. But, you know, John would invest it. You know what I mean? He would make things work. And I think the people that, and I like being around him, and I like talking to him, and I always glean off of everything he says. And I've got other people that I like listening to that I like to look up and listen to them and share with them. And Dwayne and I talk almost every day. You know, and we'll share and talk to each other and talk about our life, what we're doing, what we're happening. And I just ordered me an apron. It's a tool apron. You wear it, it comes across your shoulders and comes around you. You can put your hammer and your stuff in. It's not one of them hook on your belt, because that pull your pants down. And I never liked that, okay? And one that just goes around me, sort of where my belly's sort of big, it sort of hangs down. It's hard to keep my stuff in. But I was on the internet the other day, and I told Janice, I said, I need one of the, it's an apron. I've seen them look like a vest.
I haven't seen
this. Is really neat. And it comes around, and it goes over your shoulders and snaps around you. Because when I'm doing stuff, I can't never find my screwdriver or my pliers. You know, I put them in my pocket. You ever do that? And you're looking for your tools, but this, you can put everything right on you. Ruler, I look for my ruler all the time.
I do too.
My pencils, I'm looking for my pencils. But I think, and I sent a picture of it to Dwayne. He said, are you going to use that in the kitchen? I said, no. I plan on using them when I'm doing my construction work and my handyman work. And we get to laugh, but we talk all the time about stuff and speak into each other's life and do that. And I think that's always speaking up.
It picks you up to hear somebody like that. You know, just like when we talk to each other, we always have a laugh, and it's always good to hear something like that. You hear so many negative things today. I mean, what really pulls us down is all the negativity, negative things that surround us, you know. And it's good to have somebody to speak to that'll make you laugh, and you know, just builds upon the day, I think. Helps you get through the day and helps you look forward to the next day and keep going.
Well, I believe it's like, as we shared, it's like markers in your life too. You got people in your life, you speak to each other, and you look forward to talking to them. And I've got friends that I can call, I haven't spoke to in a year. I can still call them up, and we just pick right up, start talking about stuff, and you know, just go right on. And I don't know. I think I heard a guy talking about the other day. First thing I think in life, if you don't become so sensitive all the time to everything that goes on around you, and you start, you know, sort of, it's just easy, and sort of dial it back. I tell Janice, she'll tell me I live in my laxy daisy world, and she said, "You don't even know what's happening around you." I said, "No, I don't. I don't know, but I mean, I enjoy myself, and I go on. I like people, enjoy myself, and And one thing I do enjoy is if I think somebody don't like me, I like to force them to talk to me.
Yeah, I do too.
I like to say, hey, how are you today? I just think about you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That to me is like a hobby.
Yeah.
I like doing that.
Yeah, I like for people to have to talk back to me. Somebody, some people think that they're a little bit higher class than you do. I mean, they're just people like that.
Yeah.
And I like to make them talk to me because I'm kind of like that too. I make them say hi or something.
Yeah.
And I'll say hi to anybody and laugh with them. It don't make no difference to me because I can talk to anybody.
Yeah.
That's all I've always been good at, talking to people. That's the reason I was a good car salesman. I was the best.
Well, I think that when you got a gift and that gift is there, okay, that gift of communication and stuff. And I met some strangers the other day. I was in Ohio, and I met some just people I'd never met before, and we got to talking, and I told them about when I got kicked out of a church one time, how I got kicked out of it. Perfect strangers, okay? I just told them all about it, and this is what happened. They was asking me some questions about it. I just told them, yeah, this is what. Well, why do I care? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you think it's going to hurt my standing in the community with these people? They don't know about me, and even if they did, I'd tell anybody that knows about me. We talked about everything, just talked and laughed and went on about stuff, and I enjoyed talking to them, and I said, we might never meet again. Well, what happened was, and if this hurts me, it's just too bad, but my grandson said, "Papa, I want you to come over and play poker with us, okay?" And I said, "I'm not very good at poker." I said, "I hadn't played since high school, and that's a long time." And he said, "Well, come on." I said, "How much money do I need?" He said, $20. I said, "Ooh, $20." So I asked Janice if I had $20. So then they wanted to play something called Texas Hold'em.
Oh, Texas Hold'em.
Okay.
I've heard about it.
I never played it either. Now, like, all these teenage boys are sitting around the table, and they know how to play.
Yeah.
Okay, they play every week.
Yeah.
I don't play. And I'm in the 60s. And then I gave him my money. Well, it ended up being $10 instead of $20 to get in. So that made me feel better because I'm just going to lose $10. I spend that much at breakfast. So I said, well, all right. So they gave me all my chips. Well, they're 4 different color chips.
Yeah.
Like a blue, or anyway, they're like 10 cents, 20 cents, 50 cents, and $1. So I said, I got to play in that. I said, I don't know how to play this. So they said, we'll teach you, which cost me a little bit. But they got to explain the rules to me and stuff. And I said, I'm going to push these coins out. You tell me which ones I need to leave. So I got to playing. Well, anyway, I was up $30 before you knew it. Okay, I'm up $30.
You can like that.
I don't think I'm gambling. If I am, I just am. Okay, I gamble when I buy insurance.
Yeah, I do too.
So I mean, I'm playing. I'm sort of catching on a little bit. And anyway, I would just sort of bet and then lay my cards out and let them tell me if I won. And sometimes I wouldn't even look at my cards. I'd just bet. I said, it's all by chance anyway. What difference is it going to make, Anyway, I got down to where I was doing, I had all these chips, man. I'm up all kinds of, they're all fussing at me, thinking I've hustled them, but I hadn't. But anyway, so I'm enjoying myself, okay? So then I come back down and I said, guys, I don't want to leave here with all this money. I got all this money. So Caleb had a hand. It got down to it was me and him, but I'm pushing the big blue chips out by then, the dollar ones, and the silence over the room, and he cleaned me out. He got all my money.
He got it all, did he?
But I mean, it was fun, and I got to play with them, them guys. I went up there and done a chapel in a big school. I don't know how many thousand kids in the school, but they invited me up a while back to do their chapel service, and I done it. And come out, and that principal said, we've never heard these kids laugh before. This is the first time we've ever heard them. Anyway, so I really built a relationship with them all. They all, every time I tell a story, they get quiet and want me to tell them something else. And I could tell them something. I told them stories and enjoyed it, but it was so much fun. I don't know. I just enjoy spending time with them and sitting there with them boys. And they said, "Now, you need to come back every week and play." I said, "Yeah. Why don't I just give you my money and stay home?" I said, "You just take my money." But it was a lot of fun. This is just it renewed my confidence in a generation. I seen these boys. You know, and the things they were doing. And come back up there, and one of them, they were building a go-kart from scratch, the motor and the frame and the wheels. They had all these parts off all this stuff, and they said, "We're doing this as a project." You know, and then Caleb this week has been he's taking cooking classes in a home. This lady's giving him cooking classes as part of their schoolwork. He's doing all week just cooking. He's cooking sushi and all these different things and doing stuff like that. And I see that generation, and I'm renewed in this generation.
Oh yeah, I've watched them here in the last few months. I think things have changed from maybe the last year or two. I mean, people counted them out and counted them off, and but they have come back. The younger generation's coming back. They've come back, and I think, I thank God for that. I'm so glad to look back and see them, to be able to come back and get back in a position to be able to be leaders like they should be, we need leaders like we need. I mean, we need leaders out there, and if we don't teach them, if we don't tell them right, then they're never going to be there. They're never going to make the leaders that they need to be.
Yeah, I was telling Carter a little while ago, we were talking in the car, and I said, "You know what, I wish they had a trade school you could go to around here." I said, "I'd pay for that." If you could go to a vocational school just to take something, some type of carpentry or welding, or do something just to do those things along, because it's real interesting to work with. I said, if you could do some things like that, and I think it would always help you.
Oh, it would be.
Because you want to be able to take care of yourself in a situation, to be able to take care of yourself.
Things that you learn, like that, like if you learn a trade, I mean, they can't take it away from you, because you always have that in your, in your life. And that's what I've always said too. You learn, if we could just teach them a trade, maybe a couple of them, so they got something to fall back on. And what happens is they get out there and they just, like they go to school to be a certain, they take some kind of class to be, like they said a while ago, a brain surgeon or something like that. But we don't need many brain surgeons. You get to where you don't need them. But we do need these other type people to come in, the brick masons, and they make big money too, because, if you find a good one. Just like anything like that.
I was in Pineville working at the cable system over there yesterday and doing some things where we're on television in Wyoming County and all up through there. But the technician was there and working. He was running some wires and doing some stuff. And I said, "Buddy, AI will not replace you." Because this AI thing, Charlie, and I know you don't work with it at all, okay? But I'm going to tell you something, man. It's freaky. And how it will make things so much easier. There's things that we can do. I use it a lot, okay? And if you want to take 10 minutes, I'll sit down with you. It's interesting to see, okay? But you can do things like a lot of our graphics and things now that we do at the TV station. I can go in and say, "Make me a lower third to say this, this, and this," and it just creates it for me just as neat. And then I can say, and then I back up and say, and it says, "John, is that okay?" And I say, "No, make it this size instead." And it doesn't. I say, "Okay, replace this word with this," and it recreates it and puts it out for me. And it just. So much you do, that it's going to help. And they talked about, too, how it would help, like on X-ray technicians. They were talking about how that job will really decrease, because they'll be able to take that X-ray. You know how when you get an X-ray now, they say, "Come back in 3 months and we'll tell you if you're going to live." Okay? But they said they can put it in 30 seconds. It'll scan that X-ray and it knows what's going on. And a human can look and say, "Well, no, that ain't it," or something. But I mean, it'll look at it and say, "All right, here we are." And I think that's what we're running into a lot with that thing. It's really going to help so much in so many areas. That I do a lot of things I use it for. And I know people that there's an age gap that gets us fights a little bit. But I'm telling you.
I know nothing about it.
The only dangerous thing I think that's going to happen is these pictures that girls put on Facebook.
Could be.
When they put their picture in there and tell AI to soup it up a little bit, then you see them and don't know who they are.
Oh, yeah.
You say, who is that?
Yeah.
I don't recognize you from your picture. See, and that'll trick you a lot, okay? I run into there, and they'll say, who is that? You won't recognize him from the picture.
I saw somebody's picture the other day, and I said, hey, that ain't who that is. I said, there ain't no way. I said, no way.
Oh, Lord. And I've already got in trouble over that 2 or 3 times making mention of that. But I don't know, Charlie. I think about things in life. I enjoy it. I enjoy people.
Yeah.
Our friendship I value.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's very important to me, and I value that, and
Me too.
And I'll go along and I say, I need to call Charlie.
Yeah.
And then when I can't get you, I get mad. I say, where is he? He's really that. I mean, you know what I mean? I said, now he could be dead in the mountains, and I wouldn't even know it. I mean, be in that tree stand hanging off the side of it with his mouth open, and I wouldn't even know where he was. The bears would eat him, and there he would be in the mountains, and I wouldn't know where he is. But we will go to Colorado.
Yeah, we'll go.
Okay?
Yeah,
Janice will let me. I'll ask her. I'll have to do a bunch of housework. I'll have to get my favors built up. And I say, honey, Charlie really needs me to go. He's going through some hard times. He needs me to go with him to Colorado. I'll do that. I'll play the sympathy thing. And she's, I really love Charlie. If you need to go help him, you go with him. And you and I'll be out there partying to be 60. We'll have little hats on and blowing through them streamers.
Yeah, we will.
We'll go to some place and eat a big steak. But I don't want to go when it's real cold.
No.
I don't go real cold.
We'd have to go about July. It won't be
I'm not tough, Charlie. I don't mind going if we can sit by the river. And
fish.
Yeah, and I haven't done that, but I'd like to.
It takes a lot of patience.
I told Mary the other day, I said, that Charlie gave me a fishing pole, never took me fishing yet. I said, what does he want me to do with that fishing pole? I said, first thing, if that fish swallows that thing, how am I going to get it out of there? I mean, I just have to cut the string off.
Cut your line.
Cut the line, leave the hook in the fish. I have to have a whole bunch of hooks because I won't know what to do with that. But I'm not. My dad never hunted, never fished. I never known him to go. We never done anything like that. He might talk about it when he was young. He may have probably done it and stuff like that when before they had TV.
Yeah.
But I mean, we just never done anything like that. We were storekeepers, and business is what I thought about, and I never thought about that growing up. Oh, I'd like to go hunting, or I'd like to never look for. I mean, I didn't mind going in the mountains and doing stuff. But I never thought about that.
That's what my dad. He always hunted, and he never fished till he retired. And I'd go fishing with me. I'd take him fishing with me. He'd learn how to. I was trying to teach him how to trout fish, but he never did get too successful on that trout fishing. But he used to go hunting, and that's how I started hunting. I started hunting by myself when I was 8 years old. And I've always hunted, because my dad always hunted, and that's it. But he was a coal miner, as most people was around there. They was related to coal some way, just like your family was. But he taught me how to hunt and stuff like that, and he'd take us with him, and we'd go hunting, and that's what I enjoyed about it. That's what got me started. Just like your dad started doing stuff and doing stuff that you liked, that he liked, and just like my dad, that's what he did, and that's what we adapt to. We adapt to that lifestyle.
Yeah. I can remember when I was a boy working in the coal mines with Dad, what I would do. And when I was a little boy, Charlie, I mean, I couldn't have been over 10 years old. I don't think I was, maybe younger than that. I remember whining, wanting to go to work with my dad. He worked at Newhall at the mines.
Yeah.
And he took me.
He took you to work.
My dad took me to work as a little boy and left me in the truck. Okay? And he told me, I'll whip you if you get out of this truck. Took me to the mines, Charlie. Left me in the parking lot, in the truck. And I could open the door and climb up into the bed of the truck because I was still in the truck.
Yeah.
And I would climb in and out of the truck, and I would look and yell at people and do stuff. Little boy in the truck at the coal mines in the parking lot. I think my dad was trying to kill me, but put me in the truck like that. Well, I did eat most of his lunch. And when he come out, he was very upset. When he come out for lunch, he come out there. But I mean, I think about stuff like that. I mean, he would take me, just do stuff, those kind of things. He'd take me and go on to, all right, come on, It sounds like something I'd do to one of my grandkids. All right, come on,
Just take them with you.
If they say they want to drive, I put them up in the truck, so get the wheel. You know what I mean? And but I mean, I don't know. I think about, how old was you when your dad died?
Let's see. My dad died in 92. Shoot, let me figure here. It was about 92. It was more than 52. That's about 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What changed for you when your dad passed away? What changed in your life?
Man, I miss my dad because, I'd go get him. He got to where he couldn't drive and stuff. And he lived right behind the car lot where I had my car lot. And my office and everything was over there. I missed him. He'd come over every day and he'd sit on the couch. And I missed him. I'd watch him walk up a hill. And I missed him. I really missed him because he was always there. And, I thought about this, Brother John. Your dad passes away. And then 7 years later, my mom passed away. And then when they both are gone, you kind of feel by yourself because you can always go talk to mom and dad. And once they're gone, then you can't go back and talk to them anymore. And you kind of really, I don't know about you or anybody else, but I kind of felt all by myself because there wasn't no mom and dad. And I had to realize that I was all by myself now. My decisions, I couldn't go back and talk to Dad. Hey, need to borrow some money, And, I mean, we had to do it.
Absolutely.
And that changed a lot for me. That changed things for me. Of course, our whole family, Dad, I know my dad, he loaned all my family money, just like most people, you had to, they took care of him. And, that's I missed him, but not because of the money. That's not what I missed. I missed him being there for me. Missed his absence, everything.
When my dad died, I've shared this before. I never felt old. I always felt like the boy.
Yeah.
As long as my dad was alive. And when my dad died, I had I aged 10 years in 6 months.
Yeah.
I just aged. I got older.
Put you in that position
because because as long as he was alive, I was the boy. But when he passed away, then I no longer was a boy anymore. I couldn't be a boy. Because I could always say, well, that's my dad. You know what I mean? I'm just a boy.
Yeah.
And they used to ask me which one of the brothers I was. When they say me, Dad, Dick, and all of us together, they think I was just one of the brothers. But and that really was a hard thing for me.
Yeah.
I missed that every day because there was a big gap in my life that I talked to him every day.
Yeah.
So I had this big hole in my day that I didn't know what to do with.
Yeah.
I was lost.
It's kind of like me too. I would look for him, and you miss him. You talk to yours every day. If you didn't see him, mine, I saw him almost every day because I'd take him to church with me. I'd go get him for church, and took him everywhere. That he needed to go. If I couldn't take him, Charlie took him. And we'd always make sure that he got to do what he needed to do, and that you just miss it. It leaves a void. It's just a void that nobody else can take its place. Nobody else can. You just you got to go on and realize it's not there anymore, and you work with it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot, and I think it's all real. It's things that we've got to do growing up, and things we get older, and we're all passing through, man.
Yeah.
It's a foolish man that thinks he's not.
Yeah.
And I know people that are scared to death to die because they don't have an idea what's after it. And I'll be honest with you. We talk a lot about heaven and things like that, and I think it's a pretty cool conversation. But I don't know if any of us got full grasp of what heaven is really about. And I hear scholars talk about it sometimes, and I'm thinking, you sound real good. And we talk about this stage of heaven and this over here and this over there. And it's all good. But I know he said, told the thief on the cross, this day you'll be with me in paradise.
Yeah.
And when I think about heaven, when I think about my version of heaven, there'll be no anger and strife and malice.
Yeah.
There'll be no envy and prejudice and jealousy. There'll be none of that. When you think about heaven, what do you think?
When I think about heaven, I think about I think of I really want to be able to meet the other people, that's gone on before me. I think about that. I think about all the people, that I've helped to get there. I think about that. And then plus, you look at me, most of all, you want to make it yourself. The most important thing, you got to make it yourself because they've done gone, and you definitely want to make it. And that's what I think, Lord. I just want to be able to be in a position to where I know that I can make it, and know that I'll be able to see the things that I believe in, the things that I believe in. I want to see them. I believe they're there, and I know they're there because He told me, because that's my faith. But I want to see it for myself. I want to see it as a reality, and that's what I look at heaven as. It's just like you said. There'll be no more. Most of the sin that's in this world is caused by the things that you talked about: bitter, strife, anger, malice, and all those things. And that's what the sin. That's what brings sin into the world. It's caused of bitterness and strife and anger and all that. And there'll be none of that. Well, there'll be no more better than this and better than you and better than me. We'll all be equal in heaven. Although I believe there'll be rewards. I believe some people will have rewards because, there's different rewards for people to have. And I think that not that I'm going to be a lot better than you are, but I think that we will get a reward, according to the things that we've done.
Yeah, I believe the Bible bears that, says that too. I mean, I'll tell you this, and I faced a little bit of scrutiny over this. I don't think it'll take as much to get into heaven as people think it does, because as a father, all right. I mean, my son can do a little something, and I brag on it. And one of my daughters can do a little something, and as a father, and I think it's the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know people brag on their kids sometimes, and you're thinking, I know that kid, it ain't near as much as you say it is, but that because it's their kid and they love.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm like that, as rotten as I am, then if God the Father is this, and I studied for 2 years on God the Father. One time, 2 years on nothing but God the Father. This relationship of a father and his love, and that heaven and hell is not a trick or a trap, but we were with him in the beginning. Okay, and I think about that part of me that enacts, and that part of me that wants to reach toward God and looks for that peace and things. That's why, Charlie, and I know I'm covering some stuff, and we ain't got enough time to go through it all, but when I think about some people are not going to heaven.
No, some people.
He said, "My sheep know my voice, and a stranger they'll not follow."
That's right.
Some people don't belong to him, Charlie. He died for them all. I believe this is my belief, and it's all right if we don't agree. My belief is he died for them all.
Yeah.
But all don't belong to him.
All don't belong to him.
Okay.
Right?
And that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow.
It's hard. It's hard to, when you think, when you really start getting down and thinking about that. I try to look at things. Well, I try to look at them in his eyes. That's what I started doing. I used to be I was a mean preacher. I'll just be honest with you. Really. If you smoked, you was going to hell. If you chewed, you was going to hell. If you didn't wear your clothes right, you was going to hell. And then I got to realizing that, man, all these people ain't going to hell like that. Just like we said, all of them ain't going to heaven, but all of them ain't going to hell. Just because of the little things that I seen, then I began to learn. And Brother Eddie taught me a lot. I wasn't like that. It's been several years since I've been like that, but a long time ago, I learned better. I pastored the church for 23 years, and down at Raven, I built it. And I pastored it for 23 years, and I learned more the last 2 years I pastored than the 21 years that I did, that I began. I learned more about people and how to take care of them. I learned what it took to hold them together and to bring them together and keep that. And that's what you got to learn, Just like Brother Eddie used to always talk about, being the way that God looked at us, And he taught me a lot about that, about how that God looks at us and God sees us. He don't see us as somebody out here. That's crazy as we are, and he loves us.
Right.
He sent his son to die for us, and that's what I look at. And I know that he did. I know in my heart that he did, and he loves me. Although sometimes I fail him, sometimes I'm disappoint him, and we do. But through that disappointment, I brought him some joy. I think he smiled on me sometimes. That's the way I look at it,
And I believe too. There's, I had the Lord tell me one time. I said, "Lord, thank you for letting me work."
Yeah.
And He said, "Thank you for being faithful."
Yeah.
Okay. And I know there's people who could do the jobs that I do better, but He picked me. And I tell the Lord sometimes I get a little off. I say, "Now listen, you picked me. If you wanted somebody sweeter and kinder and that weighed 150 pounds with the Old Spice, and you should have picked him. But right now, you picked me for the job, and I have to do the job. I told Connie one time, I said, now we get this program up and going, and we get stuff going. I said, I'm going to get somebody else to come in and do the interviews. Somebody more attractive and things like that that's more finished. She said, I do not think you're going to get by with that. She said people want to talk to you. I said, well, all right. Because, I told Mike Muncie, I interviewed him the other day. He's wrote all kinds of books.
Oh, yeah.
That fella is a writing machine, okay?
That's great.
He's just, and I told him it's because he's never done any hard work. He said he done it right. He talked about in the coal mines how he held the light a lot. But, I told him, I said, Mike, the only thing I see with your books, you need some prettier women on the cover.
Yeah.
I said, I think your books would sell better. I said, you got these old people in these log cabins on the cover. You need to put Paris Hilton on them books. I said, them books would sell a lot better.
I saw you doing the interview with him.
He done real good. Charlie, I've enjoyed this.
Been great.
Janice told me I've used up too much time, but it don't matter to me. I get paid by the hour. We'll sit down again later. But Colorado, we'll put on the trip. I got it on my paper.
Yeah, got it on the paper.
John and Charlie, Colorado.
Yeah.
June or July.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay, I put it on there. I'll go home, put that on my big calendar on the wall, and we'll plan it out and plan a trip. We're going to Colorado, Charlie and I. No, that Connie's like an old refrigerator. She can't keep nothing. She's all that jibber jabber in there. We're not going yet, honey.
We're not leaving.
All right, Charlie. Appreciate you, buddy.
Appreciate you too.
Thank you. It's a good day.
It is.